Garrett must have joined.
Yeah, Garrett. Garrett, I just wanted to let you know, I come to your meeting for you, not necessarily for your guest speakers. So just wanted to get that,
Oh,
out there.
thank you. That's very nice of you, Jenny. Although I would encourage you to listen to the guest speakers as well, but
No, I listened, but
Okay, good.
you were, the way your email was slanted, were like, oh, I'm not going to have a guest speaker, so I'm going to have to blah, blah, blah. And I go, but I love what you have. Well, I love what you share with us.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I actually have a really exciting one tonight. It's very ad hoc and I didn't plan anything, but this is something that will be fun to do ad hoc. I don't know if we'll get more people, we'll see, but we had a lot of RSVPs, but people RSVP'd for the other event and then I changed it, but I kept the theme on education. And in fact, I'm going to stick with that theme. We're just going to do many tasking on education, but we'll see how many people we get. So let me ping the Discord community and see if we can get more people there.
I'll be right back.
Sure. Let me actually make you not that we're likely to get trolls this small, but I'm going to make you a co-host. And Jenny, I'll make you a co-host.
No. Don't make me a co-host. I'm sorry.
no.
I'm technically ignorant and I can't do that. Um,
Darren, you're the meetup organizer, Darren, right?
Oh yeah, Darren Chang, right? Darren.
Darren, are you the guy that no, okay, never mind. So I have the wrong Darren, so no worries.
How does a co-host work? What do they do?
Well, you're a co-host, and what it means is that you're allowed to kick people out of the event if they're rude, and you're allowed to mute them, and you have superpowers,
But where is the where's the functionality to do that?
Well, I have that access because I'm a host. I don't know that you do, even though I made you a co-host, but as a host, I get to empower other people to be powered.
Okay.
Look like you made me co-host today. I have a superpower. I can kick anybody out if I don't
Sean, you
like them.
deserve superpowers, but don't kick people out just because you don't agree with them, Sean.
Hi, Sean.
I know it's tempting. I know it's tempting. Even if we have Trump supporters here, Sean, don't kick them out.
Okay.
We want to hear the Trump supporters more than anyone, because, really, what are you thinking?
There's a guy who disagree with Trump, and then he
want to persuade them away from Trump. That's what we want to do.
This was absolute power, absolute corrupt.
We have to persuade them away.
Well, we should always listen to them with an open mind, Jenny. But then if we can find a flaw in their argument, which I think that I probably could if I listened to them with an open mind, but I could be wrong. I think then I can, once I've heard them, listen to them with empathy, then I would try to point out why I think they may have a misunderstanding. That was not, by the way, how it went down with my friend that became a Trump supporter. It did not go well. I lost my marbles with that guy because he's a really smart guy, and I was like, yeah. Luckily, we were one-on-one, so I didn't have to be as polite as I try to be here. But although I should have been more polite, I really wasn't. I was rude to him, and I apologized afterward. But I was like, really? Really? This is a good Israeli Chardonnay. You don't get that many good Israeli wines, but...
The good news with Trump, I saw recently, there's an excellent program here in Australia. You can get it via the internet called Planet America. It's on our government broadcaster, the Australian Broadcasting Commission, so that they're quite independent. They're commercial free, and they give a great objective overview on the whole situation in America. It's called Planet America. I think you guys would love it. Anyway, they were saying that just last Friday, they were saying that with I think it's the exit polls at New Hampshire, 30 to 50% of those that voted for Trump said that if he gets convicted, they won't vote for him. So there's a huge amount that won't vote for him.
I have a group of friends that said that was not going to be true, and I'm really glad to hear that, because if a court of law says the guy's guilty, like we shouldn't be making him a president. I mean, I don't think we should make him a president either way, but I definitely don't think that we should make him president if he gets convicted. Yeah, so thanks for sharing that, Will. I don't watch the news because it's just depressing. So
Yeah, it's not a news show. That's just about American politics. It's all
I
about.
found it funny that it's called Planet America because yeah, we do act like it's our own world, right? We're in our own world here in America land. So I have a feeling that's what they meant. You could tell me I'm wrong, but
Yeah, just like things can, like the Capitol Hill on January 6th is sort of an example of just how off the charts it can get.
that was unusual. That was
I
the
know.
first in our
Yeah.
country's history, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah. But it's just a unique environment.
Well, hang on. That's not true. Insurrection against the rightful government. You did that in 1776.
Oh wow. No. Those were the illegitimate leaders. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, well, if you no,
I
really,
was teasing. I was teasing DLJ.
Good sir.
You're right.
good
You're
sir.
right.
I must
Save the
admit.
king. God save the king.
I have to
Actually,
say,
these
I'm
days, if Trump
not-
gets elected, I'm gonna petition the British government to take back over again.
you want it to make America Great Britain again.
Exactly. I love that. That's great.
Thank you.
Did you just come up with that off the top of your head, DLJ? Because that was good.
Not original. I don't know where I got it from, but I heard
Okay.
somebody.
It was good.
I have to say, I'm rather hoping Trump does get in. I love the imported comedies we get from the USA. A great farce is always watchable.
I mean, look, we can joke, but the truth is we almost lost our democracy twice, and I really don't know that we would get away with it a third time. So, Hitler failed his first coup attempt too, but he did end up coming to power and becoming dictator for life. So, there's that. Hitler also went to jail after his first coup attempt, and he actually got more popular when he was in jail. So, but I don't know if Trump's going to last long enough to go to jail, get out, and get more popular. We'll see if his batteries last that long.
They say the charges, like the severity of the charges are such that it's almost certain that he's going to be convicted, and it carries jail time. And that the prosecutors, whoever they are, their success record is like 95%. So, and they really do their homework.
Interesting.
Like they knew they had him, and that's why it took years to collate all the evidence. So apparently it's like the elephant in the room, that it's all going as normal, but chances are extremely likely he's going to be behind bars.
Good, thanks for sharing that.
Nobody's sort of really acknowledging it.
No,
The question would be like, would he, well, I don't want to go down this path. I mean, I'm kind of curious, like what would happen if he does end up in jail? Is he still the candidate? I would imagine he's still the Republican candidate. So
he can be, yeah.
You're going to screw USA, okay? This is why. Remember, we are a two-party system. He's in firm control of one party. So this is the problem, okay? No, Trump not going to jail. Trust me, he's not, okay?
So let's do social if we could, and let's let people introduce themselves. It's nice to see you all here, a lot of regulars. Great to see you guys. And on video, many of you as well, which thank you for that. It's always nice to see people. So let's have people introduce yourselves and where you're connecting from and what brings you to be interested in tonight's event. And I'm going to get more specific about what we're doing tonight in the presentation. There's not going to be a presentation. Tonight is going to be a many-tasking effort. So we're going to be collaboratively building knowledge together using our critical thinking skills. So I think it's going to be fun. It may be a little chaotic. I'm going to do my best to manage the flow of things, but we'll take it one step at a time. But for now, let's do the social while I prepare and hear people introduce themselves.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. I am Joe from Philadelphia. It's good to see you, Garrett. Nice to see everyone. This evening, I'll be interested to see how we could all exercise our critical thinking skills to see what we can come up with. I know tonight is like, I don't have any formal expectations. I was looking forward to the philosophy discussion, but we'll have that some other time. And yeah, I'm a member of the Free Thinkers Institute and have some interesting ideas that I'd like to actually run by you soon, Garrett. All right, I'll talk to you soon.
Great, good to see you. Who else wants to present?
Well, I could say hello.
Yeah.
So I'm David in Toronto. And yeah, I really enjoy these meetings. I guess my question is, would you go to a crowdsource of, I don't know, 20 people for something, or would you go to an expert? So I guess that's kind of the question in my mind.
We're going to crowdsource from 20 experts.
Well, that's the thing, eh? If they are 20, if we have 20 experts in some particular area, sure, then obviously
I think we're all experts at learning. I mean, this is a pretty smart group. I come to these things every week and I find a lot of really smart people here. So
I agree 100%, Garrett. But the question is, we're not all neuroscientists. So what if you had an x-ray of your brain that showed some problem? Would you come to this group and say, hey guys, what do you think I should do next? Or do you go to a neuroscience, a neurosurgeon say?
But I think you'll find tonight's topic is general enough that you'll agree with me that we're all experts. And if you don't, you can bring it up at that point once I present what we're going to be doing.
Okay.
You're always welcome to disagree with me, David. You don't hesitate to do it, and I have no problem with that. That's what free thinking is all about, my friend.
I have a worldview. What can I say?
Besides, you're compelled to do that by the laws of physics. You can't even help it, so I can't blame you.
You got that. You see me so clearly, Garrett. You see. Okay.
Sorry, guys. We're doing our free will jabs. So, who else wants to present themselves? And I'm in a silly mood tonight because I've been up since 3 o'clock this morning. So there's a chance we may end up early if I can't end early if I can't make it through the whole night. But go ahead, everybody. Who wants to introduce themselves? Go ahead, Sean. Yeah, feel free to raise your hands and then we can go in order.
My name is Sean. I live in Salisbury, Maryland. I have been joining this group for a while, so most people probably already know me. Critical thinking is a very good topic for me. I think right now our political situation pretty bad because so many people are blind follow. Okay, not a good people alone. They just blind follow some rumors or whatever. And also I came from China. I know how propaganda can change people's mind. Okay, right now I feel like US basically I feel I experience another propaganda. Okay, it's very frustrating. For example, current our economy, right? It's pretty good. Last quarter, third quarter will have 5% GDP. Fourth quarter 3.3. The whole year is more than 3%. That's wonderful. For past 2 years, our interest rate increased from almost 0% to 4.7.5. Okay. Trump cut tax from cut interest rate. Sorry, cut taxes. The best of the year he had like only 3%. Okay. Overall, 4 years only 2.3% GDP. Our unemployment rate right now 3.7. Yes, inflation a bit higher. Okay, 3.4. Everything's great. European GDP growth last year is 0%. Nothing. Compared with them, we did great. Look at the whole country, the sentiment. Everybody blame Biden. Everything is bad. is unbelievable. Okay, I don't know why people just lack of the critical thinking. The biggest thing is the Democrat made mistake is the border. Okay, seems to me Democrat react very slow. The whole sentiment of border security or immigrant is a huge issue. They do not pick it up. Okay, and of course those two stupid wars really hurt Biden. Anyway, I'm complaining a lot. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Sean. Who wants to go next?
I'll speak if no one else will. Hi, I'm Will. I'm on the east coast of Australia, about 100 miles north of Brisbane, also known as Brisbane. God save the King, part of the British Empire. Literally, I've copped some flack for saying that in the past, but I'm just trying to bring light to that fact that there was a huge empire, the British Empire, and we are still in it. It's just a fact, as is Canada and India, or parts of it. Anyway, I think.
Is there any formal like authority of the UK over you guys?
Yeah, the Governor General. So the Governor General, it's like a technicality, but they have to sign off on all legislation that goes.
Like, what if they didn't one day? Would the legislation really not go into law?
Well, they did one day. They sacked their prime minister, a very famous incident, Gough Whitlam, and the Governor General was a Conservative, and the Conservative Party conspired with the Governor General. They wrote a letter to the Queen, or they contacted the Queen and said that, you know, this guy is going to ruin the country, which was absolutely false. And they sacked him. So yeah, it has happened. But anyway.
But anyone that disagrees with us is totally going to ruin the country, right?
Well, yeah.
Only the people who agree with us, whatever side we're on, are going to make the country great again.
Yeah. So it did happen. But I mean, other than that, like there's
interesting. I had no idea that they actually had real power still.
Well, there's no real influence now. I don't think they could get away with it now, but it did happen once. There's no real influence. It's mainly just formality. And the
so you're just saying that in a joking, tongue-in-cheek sort of way. No other.
Well, I mean, it has. Sort of. I like to remind myself that, or people, that we are part of the British Empire, and I'm fascinated by England because they've been the most influential country ever, you know, in Western history, certainly modern history. But so it does fascinate me. But what I was going to say with critical thinking is that you know, it's not something I know a lot about. Whether I do it or not is another matter. I'm not sure if I'm a critical thinker or not. But what's intrigued me, or maybe relevant to this discussion, is how quickly it's occurred to me, like with the war in Gaza, how quickly we pick a side and then we just defend our stance. You know, this seems to be the problem with the world, and why in America it's become so polarized, because you just pick a side. Oh yeah, that seems to make sense, and this, you know, guy said it on the internet, and we're off and running with it. And once we adopt that position and put our flag in the ground, we very rarely consider the other team's point of view at all.
You know, it's funny you say that, because I was in a debate with someone, and I said, well, what's your source for that? And they said, well, it was on Twitter. And I'm like, oh, great. You mean a public source that anyone can post any kind of nonsense to? And they're like, but it was on Twitter. It must be true. And I'm like, this is like from an actually well-educated human being. And I don't know how someone could actually say that in the modern world that is not over, you know, 60 years old. He's actually probably under 40. But anyway, anyone else want to introduce themselves, and then we'll go ahead and get started. I'll do a quick intro, and then we'll get started after. Anyone else that wants to introduce themselves would be great to hear from you guys.
Okay, well, I'm Michael. I'm a member of the FTI. I live in central New Jersey, and I've been a member of the FTI for a while. And I'm not always aware of what the event is going to be at these Tuesday evening meetings, but I find whatever it is, it's always educational and edifying. So I enjoy it, and I hear interesting conversation from bright people. And I really enjoy the FTI. And if anyone's interested, I recommend that you pursue it. I know that Garrett puts the link up.
In fact,
So
I just did, Michael. So thank you for your prompt. So,
okay.
and yeah, we have membership. Well, I'll talk about that in a minute. Anyone else want to introduce themselves? Thank you, Michael.
Sure, thank you.
All right, so I'll go ahead and introduce myself since I asked you guys to introduce yourselves. My name's Garrett Lang. I'm a software developer turned software inventor, which was most of my career. And then I'm now an entrepreneur. My hobby is writing and discussing practical philosophy. I'm also the executive director of the Freethinker Institute, which is the organization that brings you tonight's event. We advertise to a bunch of different meetups, but we're basically a not-for-profit looking to support and empower members to be the best version of ourselves, to seek truth, and to be fair through transformational personal and professional development. We have free events like this one every Tuesday evening. And then we have members only events. We have different pods going on, some of which are in person. Right now, I think the in-person ones are all in New York City, but you can start a pod anywhere and make friends who believe in what we call the 5 intentions, things that we should all be intending to do all the time, which I can go through briefly. And basically, that's the common values of the FTI. And then those members events are basically to help members apply practical wisdom into our daily lives, including the 5 intentions. We have only one rule in the FTI, and that is to remain polite. So I'll ask everyone to do that tonight. It very well could get a little chaotic because we're going to be doing what I call many-tasking. It's a term that I made up and I'm trying to coin. It's the opposite of multitasking. Multitasking is where one person handles multiple tasks at one time. Many tasking is where all of us in this group are handling one task at the same time. And the way we do that is through Google Docs, which is a really cool way to many task. And I've used it extensively before Google Docs. I used to use it. I used to use Microsoft products on shared drives and do the same thing. So I've been doing this for decades, but it's better with Google Docs. And that said, I want to encourage everyone to follow the first intention is to be the best version of ourselves, to seek truth and to be fair. The second is to transparently share our beliefs with other people to the extent that we trust them, and to listen with an open mind to what other people say. And I hope that we can all do that tonight, is to share our beliefs and with each other, and then listen to each other with an open mind when other people have a good point. Really, we're going to try to be building up a small body of knowledge that can be useful to other, people in the FTI community. The link that I posted includes a bunch of different links that, include how to be a member, or like what the reasons you may want to be a member are, but also a link to our online community and, why I started the FTI in the first place, if you want some history there, and other links there as well that might be useful to you. And what I would encourage people to do is, when you listen to other people with empathy and try and understand where they're coming from, we call that listening to understand in the FTI, because we learn a lot more by listening to people we disagree with than telling them why we're right and they're wrong, which is what people typically jump to doing. I forget, I think it was Will that said that people are so quick to choose sides. And not only do they quickly choose sides, but they quickly vilify the other side. And that's really not a polite way of handling things. Much better to listen with compassion and try to understand where other people are coming from. And so that's what we try to do in the FTI. It's a bit of a different community than the normal currents throughout the world, although there are subcurrents like us, and we're trying to create more of them with increasing the sphere of influence of the FTI. So that said, I'm going to introduce tonight's topic. I will say basically the way that we handle, I'm going to talk about sort of the way that we typically handle hand raising. So once I well, let me introduce the topic. So today is about education. And what I want to do is actually, and if people hate this idea, you can yell at me and tell me you hate it. But hopefully you'll like it. I think you will. What I want to do is actually talk about the best techniques for learning and educating yourself about a given topic, maybe even, leveraging, I think the best way for learning about and educating yourself about any given topic, and ideally using critical thinking skills, right, is the idea. We should be using our critical thinking skills to learn about a topic. And so I'm starting with a somewhat well, I'm probably going to copy my study notes. I've written over 200 essays on a variety of subjects, one of which was all of my study habits. And so I'll probably use that. Shoot. Here we go. I'll use that as a starting point. Is, as far as like things that I found really helpful in terms of education, I'll use that as a starting point. But then, we can all, I'm going to share the Google Doc, learning techniques, FTI, many tasking exercise. And I'm going to leave it open to everybody with commentator access. And basically, I'm going to do a quick Google Docs tutorial because people may not be familiar with Google Docs. Let me share my screen. You can see my screen with the goal right here. And basically, you guys will, instead of having editing, you'll have suggesting. And when you type something, it will automatically show up highlighted. And it will be like, this is some new text. And then it will be highlighted for everybody. And each person, I don't know if it has infinite number of colors, but you all kind of have your own colors. And then you can write whatever you want in here. And then in order to try to come up with like a way of sort of organizing things, I will have people raise your hands. Like everybody can write stuff in the doc whenever they want. What I have in here so far is like my study habits, like study techniques that I used in college. I think most of these are things that I used in college. They're all things I used in college. So you can, use whatever learning and educational techniques that you want to, bring to the group. And then if you want to present, first put your comments in, put your thoughts down. Feel free to, take some quiet time in the middle of the meeting and write down your thoughts. And then once you're ready to present them, just, raise your hand, and then we'll have people present their thoughts and ideas one person at a time and present those thoughts. And then we'll have a little dialogue about that technique and can anyone improve on it. And then basically once, if people think, hey, that's not a good idea, we don't want to add this, I can click the little X and reject the selection. Unlikely that'll happen. More likely I'll click accept. And then boom, it becomes a part of the document. And in doing so, we'll create a body of educational knowledge that will help each one of us contribute our talent at learning. And this is where I was saying, I think we're all experts at learning. We've all learned all of our lives. And so I think we all have unique skills and talents that we can bring to bear in terms of learning. And I'm going to add some other ones that we've held past events on. And I'll look forward to hearing all of your, tricks and techniques to learning. Some of these were memorization because I didn't do a lot of memorization in college. I was CS, but I still had to do some memorization because I had history classes because I liked history, but and some other courses that required more memorization, even though that was the bane of my existence. I still liked the classes, so I took them. So that said, anyone have questions before we get started on the many tasking? And I'll share this link in the chat. that make sense? Like, can anyone like maybe let me see if I can do a quick poll and just make sure that everyone's okay with this as a topic. If not, we could brainstorm something else. I'm not picky. I want to do something that everyone will enjoy, but I hope that people will enjoy helping each other learn more effectively. That's kind of what the community is about. But polls, quizzes. Add. All right, let me see if I, okay. All right, so I launched the poll. So good idea or not, and you can say good idea or let's pick something else. And so everyone vote.
Gareth, can I ask something?
Yeah.
Nick here. Hello. Do you
Hey, Nick.
mean as in good idea or not, as in pick something else to do the research on, or as in entirely dropping the whole idea of doing the many task today?
Thank you for
Which one do you
clarifying,
mean?
Nick. I need to rephrase that. So let me redo the poll because that was a poorly done poll. So let's try again. Good idea, new topic, or let's do something else entirely. Good idea, let's brainstorm learning.
I mean, one option would be that if we do the many task, it could be an exercise in fact checking and researching. So if there was an option in your poll where, for example, well, you have the poll out already.
So
Okay.
good idea, new topic, let's do something else entirely, or good idea, let's brainstorm learning. Thank you for asking that, Nick.
Cool. Yeah.
I see the poll, but I don't see any way of selecting an option.
Everyone else is doing it. I don't know how they're doing it. Can someone else tell me, because I don't get to choose, I don't get to vote in this.
Clicking
Garrett,
it.
I've just clicked on it or pressed on the monitor. Selecting.
Yeah, I can see the poll, but no option to click on.
Try just clicking on the options themselves.
Yeah, I tried that. Nothing
I
happened.
think it's 2 user errors.
I think there should be little radio buttons showing next to each option. So did you not see any radio buttons next to each item in the list?
No, I didn't.
We're getting
Maybe
a
the
pretty
window
clear
is
winner.
minimized.
We're getting a pretty clear winner anyway. We have 8 out of 11 saying good idea, brainstorm, let's brainstorm learning. So maybe we should just stick with that if that's okay with everybody. And now 9 out of 12. So that feels, out of 27 people, I think that's a quorum for being able to, and I'll end, and then let's see if I can show the results, share result. So, I'm not making that up. So let's do it. Let's talk about learning. I mean, that's what, I held an event on the meaning of life, and I tried to make a good argument that the purpose of one of the universal purposes of us being on this earth is to learn. And I think learning, both knowledge and wisdom, are included in learning. So why don't we help each other figure out how to learn more effectively? What better gift can we give each other than how to learn more effectively? And, I like the old parable, and I'm going to let people feel free to start writing in that document. I'm just going to tell a quick parable. And probably someone else will correct me because I'm tired and I'm not going to get it exactly right, but it's like, you see a guy like chopping a tree, and he's like chopping. Does anyone remember shoot, I'm gonna have to look it up. Thank God for ChatGPT, and it'll probably remind me. Yeah, so a woodcutter is tasked with cutting down a tree, and he spends hours tirelessly chopping at the tree with his axe, but makes very little progress. A passerby observes the woodcutter's struggle and suggests he take a break to sharpen his axe, which has become dull from overuse. The woodcutter responds that he doesn't have time to sharpen the axe because he's too busy trying to cut down the tree. And so, as you can imagine, sometimes it's better to just sharpen the axe and rather than continue with the dull axe. And so what tonight is about is sharpening our educational axe and our learning axe so that we can learn more effectively and help each other learn more effectively rather than, continuously learn the same way that we have for who knows how long without any innovation. So let's innovate and help each other learn more effectively. Go ahead, Nick.
I just want to say what a brilliant actually image that is with the X, because I think it's so applicable. In some companies I worked for, that was happening. So they weren't really training their employees because there's no time to schedule training for the employees. So they said just do learning by doing. But there was something missing. There's stuff where you need to train people, right? And then all the ratings went down. The customers were complaining. It's like, well, yeah, if you would once, sharpen the X, invest the time, then you wouldn't end up in this devil's circle, So
Exactly.
It really is really applicable. This exact matter, this thing with the X, I've seen it happen,
Yeah, no, it's very real. It's a parable for a reason, and it is very real. And there are many, many people who, don't like, and there's there's the guy that just sharpens the axe all the time and never tries to chop the tree like that. That sometimes was me when I was a software developer. Someone would give me a monotonous task, and it would take me more time to automate the task than would have to just do the task. And so I always had to make a judgment call about, is this faster to automate or is it faster to do? But I will tell you, when the guy gave me like over 500 files to change the format of, I built an automation and I did it in like half an hour. And then he was like, how'd you finish that so fast? And so I automated it. But sometimes it takes longer to sharpen. You don't want to just sharpen, but I think we probably haven't all spent a lot of time figuring out different learning techniques. So let's go with each other on I like that one. So I'll start from the top, and why don't we just have people, we can actually start from the top and go down, have people like add things at the bottom and add your suggestions. So I'll just go through these kind of quickly. Let me see, I'm not sharing my screen. So flashcards, I think, is great in terms of like remembering, like for memorization, write down the name of a term or a concept or a picture on one side or and another of an index card. And then what you can do is go through the index cards one at a time and try to remember what's on the other side of the index card. And if you get it right, put it into one pile. If you get it wrong, put it into another pile. And then whatever you got wrong, put them in the other, go through that pile again after you've gone through the first list. And then once you've done that and you've gotten everything right, then flip them over and try to do it the other way. And once you can go through the pile of cards pretty effectively, you're going to remember, both sides of the card and how to go from one to the other and the other back to the first. RemNote is like an online notes flashcards tool. 4-colored pens, I use those like crazy in college. I had a red, black, blue, green pen. I would never go to a lecture without it. And what I would do is I would alternate with blue and black between writing down facts so that it would at least have alternating colors to keep my mind engaged. And then I would use green for examples, and I would use red for key points that I had to remember, like important concepts. And then, a color for asking a question someone added. Joel, I think that's a great idea. And so By the way, does anyone have more to add with flashcards? Anyone have other flashcard techniques? Nick, I don't know if you had your hand up from before, or if you wanted to raise your hand.
Oh, no, that's my mistake. Sorry.
No worries. Does anyone have other flashcard techniques that they wanted to add? All right. So Ford colored pens, you know, I find taking notes, they've actually shown studies, like I take all my notes digitally now because I like things to be searchable, and I have, you know, trouble, like I don't want to have to type in handwritten notes later, although I do have to do handwritten notes for certain scenarios because, you know, it's rude to take notes in front of like clients, you know, on the computer sometimes. But in general, like I don't do as much handwritten stuff, but they have shown that you remember things better when you write them down by hand than you do when you type them. But I just find the typing is worth it because I can search it, and so I do almost everything digitally now. But I still found that useful. I don't know if anyone has other techniques around colored pen notes. So another one is don't procrastinate, and this was my this is advice I give to students. So don't procrastinate, start stuff right as soon as you get it assigned to you. And that way, you know, from a school perspective, you can ask the questions in a you know, what's it called, where you have time like with the TAs and stuff. But in real life, like better to start on stuff earlier because, you know, if you have a deadline when something has to get done, you have a lot more time to, you know, respond to the challenges that you hit along the way if you start working on something right away. So I'm a big fan of be proactive, don't procrastinate. And the more proactive you are, the earlier you'll get something done, and the earlier you get something done, the more time you can have to celebrate. And I used to know students who would be constantly stressed in their you know, their school life because they were always, you know, saving all their homework until the night before it was due, and so they were always stressed about all the homework they had, and they never had a time where they were free of all that stress. And so I encourage people to try to get stuff done ahead of time. And if you get it done ahead of time, then you can relax and have a good time and not have anything hanging over your head because you have nothing else to do. You've already done all the things you're obligated to do. So, anyone have anything about procrastinating? There are also, if you join the FTI, there's a set of techniques for overcoming procrastination. If anyone wants to know what those are, I can try to pull up my presentation on that and talk about the different ways to overcome. There's two main ways to overcome procrastination, and I could pull those up if people are interested. Nick, go ahead. You have your hand up.
Yeah, this is actually I haven't fully thought about my comment that I'm going to give right now, so forgive me. But my intuition is just the title, when you have it as Don't Procrastinate. And I know we are taking quick notes here, and you probably did the same. It's just that usually a don't is usually something, even in terms of learning or writing things down, is usually a downer.
Right.
So, and often there's a way to rephrase something, say the same, have the same content, but we rephrase it in a positive. And when I mean positive, I just mean not, oh, it has to make me, you know, party inside. I just mean negative, positive in terms of articulation.
Yeah. Get started.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. Great point. Always stick with the positive. And I agree, Nick. It's always good to focus on the positive, acknowledge negative possibilities and address them, but otherwise you end up in toxic positivity. But good to focus on the positive and praise things in the positive rather than the negative. So
yep.
So next is time blocking, which is like about putting on your calendar, like I have to do this at this time, and put on your calendar that you will do that thing at that time and hold yourself accountable. Do not deviate from the time blocking, because if you do that, you'll completely ignore your time blocks and then it defeats the purpose. But if you say between 1 and 3 o'clock, I'm going to go grocery shopping, and you hold yourself accountable so that when it says to go grocery shopping at 1, you leave your house and you go grocery shopping, you'll get your grocery shopping done. And you know you have that time to do it, so get it done then. and whatever you want to get done, if you time block it and you hold yourself accountable to doing it during that time, you'll make sure you get to it and you have time set aside to do it, and you're scheduling time to get that done. And so, when I was in college, I used to time block all my homework assignments. If I got a homework assignment in a 12 p.m. class on Tuesday, I would time block Tuesday from 6 to 9 to go through that homework set and try to get everything done that I could. And that way, 2 days later, then I could go to office hours and ask questions if there was anything that I didn't understand or couldn't figure out. Anyone have questions about time blocking? Does anyone use that technique?
I haven't, but I've got a quick question about Google Docs because I'm not
Yes.
used to it.
Yes.
How do I create? I tried to create a new paragraph, but it didn't show up on the outline on the left, so I did it wrong. So how do I just create a new?
So the ones on the left, you have to change the normal text. Do you see where I'm going to normal text? Change it to
Yeah.
head 1, 2, and 3, and
Got
then those create these things.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So that's actually a great idea, DLJ, is that if we can use those, then we can what we can do is we can actually create at the beginning, we can create a table of contents like this, and then we'll update the table of contents at the end, and then we'll all have this easy to access, come to any piece of learning knowledge, that we want to very quickly, if people format it correctly, which is a good habit to be down. So next is studying for tests. So when I was studying for a test, or whether it's a test or anything else that you need to prepare for, where you have to have a lot of knowledge at hand, review all of the things that you learned. If you review them, like I used to go through all my problem sets again and solve those problems again from scratch before I would take an exam. And so reviewing all the flashcards as well. This is anonymous, but made notes from my notebook and then made shorter notes until I'd have one-word summaries of key concepts in the course. That's a cool idea. I like that. I think that's cool. So that's kind of like a pyramid, like the pyramid principle of, newspaper article writing, where you kind of summarize until you get down to one basic comment. So I think that's a cool idea. Anyone have other comments in terms of like studying? I'm gonna have to start sharing this doc with students instead of the one that I originally created. Oh, study groups is great. I used to do a lot of study groups, not a ton, but a fair amount, and it was a ton of fun. Like I enjoyed studying in groups, even though I was a total introvert in college. It's more fun to study together than it is to study alone, in my opinion. Even when I was an introvert, I thought so.
It's labeled me as anonymous for some reason. I don't know why. Anyway,
It's interesting.
that was me.
You may not have a Google account that you're logged into. Nick, I don't know if you still meant for your hand to be up, but it is.
Oh my, sorry.
It's okay. So I'll accept both of these. So create your own practice test. This is brilliant, DLJ. I think that's a great idea. Do you want to present that?
See, that wasn't me.
Oh, wasn't you?
I think I might have just changed that to a heading though.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Oh, maybe I did that. Okay, no wonder I thought it was brilliant. My bad. So if you create your own practice tests, creating questions of each type of problem helps you solve the problems more effectively. And when you go through the challenge of, I forgot that I put that there. It's been a long time since I looked at this. When you create your own practice test and you have to formulate the types of questions that a student would have to answer, it actually helps you learn the material better. And this is similar to what DLJ, I don't know if anyone has questions or comments about creating your own practice test, but it's almost like similar to what DLJ is saying here, in that creating your own practice test is kind of teaching yourself in a way. It's like quizzing yourself. Here, someone's got something. And we don't have to limit this to academic, by the way. I did, my initial inclination was to do academic, but I'm gonna add some more stuff at the end about real life learning, adult life learning stuff once we get through everyone else's stuff. Yeah, ask the format of the exam, like that's a good idea. Anyone have other items on practice tests? DLJ, do you want to present your part here?
Oh, well, no, just as a trainer. Yeah, the questions you get from people when you find out you don't know the answer, you have to go and research this stuff. And then, of course, as you get more into it, you don't actually need to do it to another person. You just have to have another person in your head. So that person is asking you all the difficult questions. So you'll go in, I don't know the answer to that, and then you'll check it out. So what questions am I going to get if I taught it, basically, is the thought process.
I think that's true. I think it actually is fun to, like, I think Montessori style teaching where we, do train the trainer is great. And that's part of what I want to do with the FTI. Part of my original vision was to create a Montessori style train the trainer. I don't know if people know the Montessori style of learning, but it's where, like, my kids did Montessori because I really liked the style, and I had heard it was really good for young kids, and it was really good for my kids. Basically, when my kids were, like 2.5 years old, they were in a class with 4-year-olds. And part of the job of the 4-year-olds in the class was to teach the 2.5-year-olds. And so the 4-year-olds were solidifying that knowledge by teaching the 2.5-year-olds. Well, it keeps going. As you get older, you start teaching the younger kids. And when you're young, you get taught by the older kids. And so there's this always teaching and learning going on, so that you're learning to be a leader as well as, learning from the other people. And I want to make the FTI a teaching and learning community. And so along those lines, my original vision, and I still want to do this, like, we have guest lectures on these Tuesday evenings, but, for people that want to create other sort of, groups within the FTI for teaching and learning, like, I'm very open to that. So if anyone is interested in particular topics, or, having like, I'm working with Joe, who I think had to leave, but he has a conflict on Tuesday evenings, but he comes in the beginning. But we're working together on creating an FTI STOA. And so we'll have, Stoic knowledge taught, to the same meetup groups, and, teach Stoic knowledge within that community. And it'll be a teaching and learning environment where people will teach each other. And that's really what the FTI is supposed to be about, is teaching and learning from each other, where we can all think for ourselves and decide what to agree with and not agree with. But it's a teaching and learning environment. But I agreed with that, but it didn't seem to. Oh, you changed the font size.
Yeah, sorry, that's before I understood the paragraph thing.
Okay, so I'm going to reject that one.
Yeah.
So, and then you want to go into rabbit holes, DLJ?
Oh, right. So this is for less formal learning. So I'm on the autistic spectrum. Nobody's surprised by that. And I have attention issues. So I didn't do well in school unless it interested me. So maths did. So therefore I was top of the class in maths. Bizarre. And art. Maths and art, left brain, right brain. So now, I mean, I grew up with the Encyclopedia Britannica here, right? So I would essentially start on something and that will take me to something. I think, I don't know what that is. So it'll take me to something, oh, that's interesting. Now, of course, you just start with Wikipedia or whatever you like, really. But Wikipedia is good because it's got the links. Always read the critique of what you're reading. I always think is good. In fact, I sometimes go to the critique first, like the criticism of something. But then there's links and there's references. So you think, oh, I don't know what that is. And you go to that and you go to that. So in other words, your own interest is driving you forward. And if you're interested, you're going to learn more. That's basically my idea on it. But it's not for formal study for a particular, exam or anything.
Yeah, no, I think rabbit holes is great because it leads you from one thing to the next. Myers-Briggs ends like me love rabbit holes because we like draw these connections and we go, oh, how can I learn about that next thing, that there's like a breadcrumb trail to follow. And etymology is one of those things, right? Like learning about etymology, I think, is really fun, about where words came from. Joel, do you want to present your next one?
I'm sorry. What is the next one? I'm sorry. Yeah.
After reading a text, try to articulate it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. Right. Yeah. What I noticed is there's kind of a feeling like when you read a text, you might understand it. You think you understand it, but if you put it down, like either after a section or perhaps when a section is done, or maybe when a chapter is done, just put it to the side, and ask yourself in your own voice, what was the main idea or the thesis of that section or that chapter, and then try to ask yourself, what were the kind of reasons that justified the thesis, and I think that's in your own voice. I find that to be an honest sort of kind of reflection of reading text, because sometimes you think you might understand it when you may not.
Joel, I love that. And I used to do that too. And I totally forgot that I used to do that, because what I would find myself doing, I don't know if anyone else has done this, I would read text for like a page and then I would like come up dazed and I'd be like, what did I just read? I have no idea what that was about. And if I didn't like check myself to like thinking back to like being like active in my reading, then I would sort of read the words without processing them, if that makes sense. And if you force yourself to summarize it, you make sure that you actually understood it. Because if you can't summarize it, you didn't understand it. And this is a common thing in leadership is I learned this early on in my career, although I don't do it as much as I should in my career now, which is if you don't ask someone to summarize back to you what you told them, you don't really know if they understood it. And what I learned is early on in my career, certain cultures that I worked with, they would say, yes, yes, yes. And I'd say, did you understand that? And they would be like, yeah, I got it. And then I'd come in the next day and they would not get it done. And I'd be like, why isn't this done? And they're like, oh, I'll get it done tomorrow. I'll get it done tomorrow. And eventually I said, do you understand what I'm asking? Can you explain to me what it was that I asked you to do? And they were like, no, I don't know what you wanted me to do. And I'm like, okay, it's okay. You can tell me you don't understand if I tell you something and you don't understand what I wanted you to do. And so this holds yourself accountable in the same way, but it's also useful to hold other people accountable in that way, to say, do you understand it? And can you re-articulate back to me what I just asked you to do? When you're leading other people, it's important that they understand what you're asking them to do and what their goal is at the very least. I like to give goals rather than how to do them, but it depends on your leadership style. But that's a great one, Joel. So thanks for sharing that.
I think that also helps with a lot of times when you dialogue with someone.
It does.
When you try to articulate their idea in your own voice, so they understand that you understand what they're trying to say. So in order to advance the discussion in in a way that you both understand it. So
Totally. And that's what we do a lot in these events, to be honest. Like, you know, when people make a comment, I'll sometimes say, well, do you mean this? And I'll ask them, you know, I'll sort of use reflective listening and say, is this what you mean by that? And it sounds like you're saying this, something, you know, usually when I say it sounds like you're saying, it's because I can't understand why someone would say what I think that they just said. And usually they'll go, no, that's not what I meant. And so this kind of, you know, over communicating with each other is super important, because 90% of conflict comes from misunderstanding. And when you realize that 90% of conflict comes from misunderstanding, you'll realize that it's super important to make sure you really understood what someone said before you get upset about it. And so when you're upset by anything, I highly encourage everybody, just reiterate back to them, I think what you're saying is X thing that you think is absolutely crazy. Don't tell them you think it's crazy. Just say, I think what you're saying is X. And they will probably say, no, that's not what I meant, if you think they were crazy. Yeah, examples is really good. Totally agree, Joel.
sometimes it's hard to kind of look at the reasons, but you're very familiar with an example. Sometimes that helps.
Yes.
So abstract, especially philosophical text can be extremely abstract.
Totally.
So,
and I think a lot of philosophers lose themselves in their own texts, quite frankly. Like, I don't know that they even always know where they're going with their own writing, to be honest. And they kind of ramble and meander. And so I think tangible examples helps ground things into the realistic. And we had another event on thought experiments, and I tried to make, I hope, a good argument that thought experiments are really only useful if they're grounded in some sense of reality. And in fact, that thought experiments not grounded in reality create more misunderstanding rather than wisdom, meaning they lead you to come to the wrong conclusions, not just not lead you to the right conclusions, they actually lead you to the wrong conclusions. But watch that on YouTube, because we aren't going to digress on it tonight. So next is output is more important than input. Christina, would love to hear from you. Oh, did you summarize, Chad?
I think that was mine.
Okay, go ahead, Chad.
So yeah, I think like a common theme of a few of these, like flashcards or creating your own practice tests, or teaching someone else, or summarizing chunks of learning to yourself, they all kind of are based in the principle of output being more important than input. So instead of like reading something over and over again in an attempt to understand it or memorize it, it's more important to try to get that information out, to try to recall it. So attempts at like recall are more important than trying to shove the information into your brain. And I couldn't find the original study, but there was one where I think they were trying to memorize words in Swahili, and it was maybe 200 students, and they would force their study habits to where one group was just ingesting, taking in information, and another group was was given a particular ratio maybe for how many times they tried to recall it versus how many times they were given a chance to say read the definition of the words. And they found that the best ratio in that particular study was being able to try to take in information 3 times and then attempting to recall it 7 times before taking like this practice exam, where they figured out how well people were able to memorize those words.
So by taking in, you mean like reading something and taking it in, and then by output, you mean recalling it.
Yeah, exactly. I think that goes for like motor skills too. Let's say you're trying to learn something on an instrument, or practice your golf swing or your basketball shot. I think there's value probably to having a coach show you exactly how to perform the motion, or a teacher showing you how to do a scale on the piano, let's say. But I think it's more important to get those 7 attempts at trying to do it yourself than it is to watch the coach do it 3 times or 7 times.
Thank you. You reminded me of something else to talk about. So really good one. Thank you for bringing that up. I had never heard that. It makes sense. Recall is, is kind of the exercising of the muscle in some respects, whereas the input is like you said, it's kind of shoving it in, and you kind of have to practice the recall more than you have to practice the shoving it in. So feel free to keep going below. I'm going to bring 2 other things up. One is learning from a variety of sources. And what I mean by this is I'm going to give it in the context of politics. Read 4 topics with any type of bias. Read sources that are pro, con, and independent of bias. So, for example, so I think someone, maybe they removed what they said, but you're welcome to write it if you want. But basically,
no.
Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I just said that this makes maybe just follow up and sometimes just see if the sources are reliable. That's all I was,
I think that's a good thing too, is like, let's add,
I thought you were going to say that, so that's why I took it out.
Track of which sources are more or less reliable than others.
Right.
That's important too. Because we all have reputations, right? And if you find a source is regularly lying or saying things that serve their political bias, and I won't say which, but I have found sources when I do this. I've ever since the Iraq War, I've read right-wing news, left-wing news, and centrist news about any important topic, and anything that sounds suspicious, I'll try to find an independent source that agrees with it. And I won't say which side, but I'll say each of you should do this on your own and see whether or not, there's one side that is more consistently, making stuff up, basically. I will say it's very dangerous to say anyone that doesn't agree with me is absolutely wrong. Anyone that doesn't have my political bias is absolutely wrong. That's absolutely wrong. Like to say that anyone without my bias is wrong is just suffering from confirmation bias. And so, I like that. Read the Daily Mail and the Daily Cause, which is like the liberal equivalent of the Daily Mail. It's like, the Daily Mail is the conservative side, and the Daily Cause. So, well, I don't want to keep the political bias in there, DLJ, if you don't mind, but so I'm gonna nix that one. Do you mind if I nix that one, DLJ?
I'm shocked. So there's a nice comedian had a nice line on the Daily Mail. He said, upholding British values since the 1930s. Gives you an idea of their slant on things.
Right. Well, it's I'm not going to go there. So I'm not going to respond to that. So but I'll just leave it in. So the next thing, someone talked about So something that I forget your name, shoot, what was your name? Chad. Something that Chad said reminded me. So I've read studies about visualization, and basically what the studies showed, and I should try to look for, and this is like part of the fun part of this is if someone else can look for this, I would love the studies that show this, but basically what it showed is that if you visualize something repeatedly, it has the same like neurological training capability as doing the thing to like 80% effectiveness. So like, let's say it's a rainy day and you like to play tennis and you don't have a way to play tennis indoors. If you just close your eyes and you visualize yourself hitting perfect tennis balls, over and over again, you will actually train your mind and train your ability to hit those tennis balls more effectively. And the next time you go on the court, you're going to get 80% of the value that you would have gotten actually going on the court and hitting tennis balls. And I don't know if it's 80%, but it was well above 60%. And I think it was around 80%. It's a very large percentage of the learning that you get just from visualization. And it's used by professional tennis players. I'm a tennis player, if you hadn't guessed. So this is where I learned about it. It's used by professional tennis players, by literally the pros, the people in Wimbledon, and the famous people that I'll watch for 5 minutes and then I'll go, okay, let's go play tennis, because I'd much rather play than watch anyone. But I'm teaching my kids and they love to play. But visualization can help you in all kinds of motor skills. And so golf, tennis, racquetball, whatever it is, if you visualize yourself hitting it the right way, you have to know the right theory first. So you do need to know the right theory and then visualize yourself doing it the right way. And you basically train your motor skills to do it the right way.
So while there's moments of silence, I'm aphantasiac, so I don't have visual imagery. I'd love to know how you guys do that. But anyway, I have to disappear. I want to just quickly say that I've quite enjoyed this.
Thank you, DLJ.
So I don't know how often you want to repeat the exercise, but I think I'm in. If it's on maybe a monthly basis, I think it's quite cool.
I think it's a good idea. Like, we can do it with different topics. So I'm glad you said that, DLJ. I would like to do this more, especially like today was a very non-political topic, but we sort of talked about doing this with Russia and the Ukraine, which we talked about last week. I didn't want to do 2 weeks in a row of Russia and Ukraine, and but like I would like to take politically divisive topics and have people put data in, and like if people have topics that are politically divisive that they want to talk about, I would love to like do something like this where we can vet the facts and like have people fact check and like have people be going ahead and like looking at what other people posted and looking for counter evidence and doing what I was talking about learning from a variety of sources, so that we can say, well, hey, that was from the Daily Mail, and I hate to tell you, but there's no independent source that can validate that. I looked around for some, and it seems like that was, and I think the Daily Mail is conservative, right, DLJ?
Yeah, slightly.
Okay, so sorry, I don't know it super well.
I don't know. With the Nazi Party, with the Nazi Party conservative, I'm not sure that's.
Well, no, they were socialists. They were socialists.
Yeah, ironic,
So,
right? So
sorry, I couldn't help it. I couldn't help it.
Right wing, certainly. Yeah, so sorry, I've got a dash, but maybe we can have a go.
DLJ.
Your free will paper, and we can all tell you what you got wrong. All right, I got it. Love you. See you, folks.
Good night, sir. So he's hilarious. He busts me up. So
what time is it in England right now? I mean, he must
it's
have
late.
been really late. Yeah.
It's like 1, but I think that's probably why shoot, was it Derek? I think it was Derek that's also in England in Europe. So
Dominic, that was Dominic Garrett, and he's
Dominic, thank you.
He's in Denmark.
Yeah. Thank you, Will.
I wonder how you pronounce that Chinese name that's in here. I wonder.
You want to share with us? Ni hao. Are they still here? No, they left. Oh no, they are here. Is that
This-
Chinese? Yeah.
This is about visualize making a body motion the correct way, and you will train your body to do it, is so true.
Right?
It is so true. I've been doing it for decades, and it really, really makes a difference. In fact, when you do it for real, it feels like you're doing it the second time.
Yeah, you get better because the truth is when you do it in some respects, it can actually, and I think this is why pro tennis players do it, because when you visualize it, you get it right every time. And so even if you're only 80% as effective, you're getting it right every one of those times. And if you're 80% effective getting it right every time, as opposed to actually getting it right every time physically, 70% of the time, you're actually better off ahead visualizing. So it, you know, it really does help for people that are into the kinesthetic learning sort of area. It's really helpful. And if you want to play
Yeah.
tennis and you're in North Jersey, let me know. That said, Will, go ahead.
Thanks, Garrett. I was just thinking with the visualization, I'm not sure how relevant it is to learning, but if you are going into a situation that you know is going to make you uncomfortable, like the dentist or public speaking even, and then you visualize the physiological reaction to that, like the butterflies in the stomach, and you bring it on and you sort of do a dummy run. Sam Harris was talking about that, about converting that, you know, like that sickening feeling you have in the stomach sometimes if you have to do public speaking, for instance. You know, it can be quite anxiety producing. You are actually in dread of it. But if you can sort of just sit there and visualize it and you feel that physiological experience coming on, like in the pit of the stomach, then when the time comes, you know what to expect and you can have a tool to deal with it as well. I've found that really helpful.
Will, I'd like to address what you just said. You said anxiety about going to the dentist.
Yeah, or public speaking. Yeah.
I am a dentist.
Mm.
And
Well,
I
you
was
did-
I do a lot of surgery in what I do. I was talking about
Wow.
visualizing the surgical procedures I'm going to do before I actually pick up an instrument. And it helps me feel like I'm doing it the second time.
Wow. So you could have the patients meditating on what you're going to do while you meditate on what you are going to do.
Yes.
Right. Mm.
So I'm actually going to bring this to Stoicism, which I'm a big fan of. There's something called a view from above, which is sort of a mental visualization, not a physical visualization. I'm going to kind of break this into two categories, physical and mental. The view from it's actually not is wait, what's the shoot, maybe I'm confusing it. What's this?
Are you thinking
I don't
about
know how-
premeditation?
I don't know how I
Premeditation
ever
towards
lived
adversity?
without ChatGPT. Yeah, premeditation,
For
Melora.
adversity?
Thank you.
Yeah, maybe you're thinking about that one. But there's this view from above or the view from space. That might also, that's a little bit different than the view for premeditation towards adversity.
Go ask your dad, Laura. Sorry, my daughter just read me a Dr. Seuss line that said, "Go ask your dad." Do you want to go read it to my group here, real quick, because we're in the middle of something.
Okay. Why are they sad and glad and bad? I do not know. Go ask your dad.
Oh, and you just asked your dad. I don't know why they're sad and glad and bad.
Hooray!
Oh, that was delicious. That was very sweet. Thank you, Garrett.
Of course. I hope you guys don't mind my indulging.
That's excellent.
Not gonna
I
get to
think
see them much today.
That was a
so
treat.
It was a treat for me too. They're beautiful souls. They're very sweet girls, and yeah, they're more than a dad could ask for. I captured a video of them this morning saying that you can snuggle with me until I'm 22. And so I saved that into my favorites. And so when they're teenagers and they go, "You can't snuggle with me," I'm going to go, "Oh, no. When you were 6, you said I could snuggle with you until you're 22. So I'm preparing for the teenage years. Arming myself with video. See, when I was a kid, my parents never had video because I'm too old for them to have had video back then. There was very little video back then. So
play it at the 21st.
Exactly. Well, I also told them that I would carry them until they're 22. So that one's on me. I'm gonna have to man up for that one. So because they like me to carry them places. They're what I call in Spanish vagas, which means lazy. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm Joel. I didn't see your hand up. Go ahead.
Oh, no worries. Yeah, I think you're addressing it already. This a little bit exactly how does it work? The visualization. I was kind of curious about. You don't have to write you don't have to write this down, but this in general, it seems to me that I don't know exactly how it might work, but in one sense, you have to kind of step back from what you are at this moment and visualize a particular scenario. And then you have to put yourself in that scenario while you're watching yourself in that scenario, which is a little bit complicated, but I think we can do it. And one problem possibly is that, well, what if you didn't think of the scenario accurately? And then when it actually does happen, would you be able to adapt? So perhaps there is maybe the scenario that you're visualizing shouldn't be so specific, so particular, maybe more general. So then when things do actually happen in their particularity, you won't be so lost. You'll still have that general feel of how to navigate in that situation. That's all I wanted to say.
So I'm gonna indulge because we're talking about Stoicism and I study Greco-Roman history. So suppose that you were in a Greco-Roman phalanx, right? Which was like 2 lines of soldiers with long spears and shields, and you're charging in towards each other. And really the Greeks did the phalanx, so maybe I shouldn't be using it for Romans, but let's just do it for fun. And someone breaks through your phalanx. What are you going to do, right? How do you respond to that? Well, you have to pivot your people like on the right so that you can kind of create more of a wall. And so you're going to figure out how you're going to deal with that as a commander, and what kind of commands you're going to give your men, and how are you going to do it. And if you think about it in terms of, let's say you're presenting, in the modern context, you're presenting at a business meeting and you want to present your proposal, and you think this proposal is going to go really well, but someone says, "No, and this is why I don't think this is a good idea." And you think ahead of time at what their objections could be to your proposal. And you think about how you will address their objections so that if they come up with those objections, you're not shocked, you're not surprised, you're ready to, address those objections. Now, maybe the objection they have is a little different than the one that you visualized or you imagined, but that's okay because you got close and you've thought about, that general area. And if you think enough about the premeditation malorum, like you'll think about the different types of objections. And the more important your presentation is, the more types of objections you should think about in advance and how to address them. Does that make sense?
Yeah. If you're asking me, yeah, I think
Ma'am.
that helps. Yeah, I think
Thanks.
that it helps. I do think that you know, don't get too lost in your visualization. You know, just
Yes.
like, for example, if you're fencing someone, and if he does this, I'm going to do that. If I do that, he's going to do this, and all this. Don't make it so ornate, because you may get lost in the particularities in your visualization, when in
Yeah, see-
actuality, it doesn't necessarily follow that.
So in fencing, which I did in college, I took as a PE class, not a real fencer. I was like a pseudo fencer, but I enjoyed it. But in fencing, you wouldn't do that while you're fencing, right? Because you're going to distract yourself from the actual, the actual battle. You're gonna do it before you go into the match, and you're gonna think, oh, if he parries and counters, from the upper right, what am I gonna do? Like, how am I gonna be prepared for that? How do I respond? And I'm gonna, go cut, seek, and like, and then and I'm just remembering a little bit of French from back then. So je ne parle pas français, pardon. That's more like you would do it ahead of time rather than in the match itself. Does that make sense?
Oh, yes, I think that's right.
Cool. So anyone else have other like learning, and this could be like solutions or it could be challenges. Is there anything that people have had like, challenges learning that they would want to get better at learning certain things that we haven't addressed ways of learning? Like, I'm all about problem solving, right? So if someone's got a problem that we haven't solved tonight, tell me what it is. Christina, go ahead.
Hi, do you hear me?
Yes, but you're breaking up a little bit.
Yeah, because my internet is not very good, or my computer is too slow. So you hear me, or?
I can hear you well enough to respond to you. Go ahead.
Okay, so I wanted to mention this idea of, well, when I was in high school, I hated school because, and I think the main reason was the fact that my teachers were not passionate about what they were teaching. So now I'm much older, and I just found this friend who's very knowledgeable, very smart, and we exchange a lot. We talk. We happen to have the same interests, and we talk hours and hours every day. And he suggests me books. I suggest him books, articles, and all this exchange for me is extremely stimulating. So it's the best learning that I have. And even though it's not for academic purposes, I still enjoy to learn every day. So yeah, this idea of sharing the knowledge with somebody or with maybe several people and learning together. Yeah.
So what I would love to do is like have people, who are interested join the FTI as members, and let's create, pods that are just about learning, learning whatever you guys want to learn, and learn something and then present to the rest of the group and teach other people on that thing. And, it can be fun, right? And Christina, to your point, like, the most boring classes I took were ones from teachers that weren't passionate about it. The most fun classes were teachers that were passionate about it. But here we have the choice to be passionate about what we want to be passionate about. We can learn about anything we want, and we can teach each other those things, and we can learn from each other. Is that Charles, CC?
Yes.
How are you?
Yeah. Hey, good. Yeah, so I have a kind of need in terms of, because of AI and GPT and various AI tools that's proliferated, I'd be interested in, if we could work together to put together some sort of quick tutorial that could help people, maximize and utilize these tools. I suppose there could be several domains. There could be just a general information epistemic betterment. There could be the generalized productivity tasks, or even when it comes to creativity. I understand they have AI that can make photographs and videos, which is a lifesaver for somebody who's incredibly artistically inept like me. So that's something I'd be interested in. And I do have another suggestion or another kind of request. I don't know if we're going by the one request per hand raising, or is it okay if I
Go ahead. We have plenty of time, and then we'll let
Okay.
Ellen go.
Yeah. So one idea I have is for a epistemic accountability partner, in a sense that I think one of the principles of FTI is for people to expose themselves to different information, but also, part of that is opposing or conflicting information from what they're used to. And I think it's actually incredibly difficult, even for people with the best intentions, myself included, I struggle with that. It's like, how do you actually, force yourself to expose yourself to alternative information? And I can see having a partner, even if they don't necessarily hold this, whatever alternative views, but simply checking in on people to see, hey, did you try to find the strongest, alternative perspective or information for this or that? Just something along that lines, I think could be useful.
Yeah, I agree. Epistemic accountability partner, that's a cool term. I think the idea of having someone that questions our confirmation bias is a really good one. And I'm glad you brought up ChatGPT. I had it in the beginning of my mind, but I didn't, do a brain dump today. And so I didn't, I just copied from my old essay about studying techniques from school. But ChatGPT is my favorite way to learn today, which I've used like half a dozen times in tonight's session to look things up that I couldn't remember, like the parable of the axe chopper. I think that's a great idea, Charles.
Actually, now that you mentioned ChatGPT, I think that's great, because essentially with ChatGPT, it's possible just to create, let's say, a generalized set of questions that anyone can use for any topic. So even if they didn't have an immediate accountability partner, they can just kind of copy and paste that into ChatGPT. That's actually a great kind of idea you inspired. Yeah, thanks. That's all.
Yeah. Eleanor.
I always wanted to learn how to sell stuff online. And I wanted always someone to show me how they place campaigns on social media, which are really functional and translating into sales. Because some of my clients, specifically startups, would be happy if I sell. And majority of contracts end because they expect you to sell stuff for them. And I haven't figured out, as much as I played with Facebook and even spent money on Google, and I connected Pinterest and Instagram, and I still couldn't sell. And the products are amazing. And the clients always think it takes a viral image, but a viral image is just placement and money. So I want somebody to show me how they do it, and I want to see real sales from their work.
So that's a great idea. There are so many directions that we can take that. Let me sort of start brainstorming a few of them. One is a entrepreneurial boot camp, a marketing boot camp.
Yeah, I'm not trying to get or to be influencer.
Right.
I think it should be different in the back, behind the curtain. I'm very well aware of CEO and how to connect the things together. And I can even write code and program this all together and implicate tags. So it's not a problem, it's still not selling, you know. So I want somebody, I have amazing clients with amazing products. Why we just don't take something and invite somebody who can show us that they can sell?
Show us that they can sell? You mean like for sales?
Yes. I want to see how professionals sell online, how they offer, and how they initiate a sale of a product.
Got it. Yeah, I guess like so this gets into our professional education side of the FTI, which remember I said in the beginning that we do personal and professional development. This is more about personal development, like these events are more just, you know, educational and for fun and about you know, personal development. But we also have a professional development side, which I teach a product management boot camp in the professional development side, which I think I didn't put I should actually put the link to next week's event before we lose everybody, because we've lost a bunch of people, especially those in Europe. But I will look for that. I don't know why, for some reason, like it doesn't show all of the future events. I have to look at, I know it's posted, but it's not showing up easily. So but I think those are all good ideas. I think Eleanor, if you could rebook with me, I apologize. I think I was late when we scheduled a one-on-one.
No,
But
I'm so tired. It's not your fault, it's my fault. I was so tired. I was sleeping. I had to sleep, you know.
No
We can
worries. Just reschedule with me and let's talk about that more offline. I do, you know, for anyone interested in those types of things, reach out to me offline. I'll put my chat in I'll put my chat. This is how tired I am. I've been up since 3 o'clock. So I'll put my email in the chat, and anyone that wants to talk about professional boot camps or professional training, I would love to do some more collaboration on professional development type stuff. Here's next week's event, which is going to be Remco is going to be presenting. He's, you know, people love Remco's presentations. He's talking about lessons from the Reformation for modern free thinkers, and I think it should be entertaining, and so I would encourage everyone to come to that next Tuesday, just as an invitation. But yeah, I would love to talk about those things, Eleonora. Am I saying that right, Eleonora? Eleanor?
Yes, I honestly don't care how you pronounce my name. I'm happy with everything.
Okay. Is there a right way though? There must be a right way.
Eleanor.
Eleanor. Okay. So Eleanor, I think like all of those are interesting things to spend time on. I have some marketing team members that I've been talking with about creating a marketing boot camp. And if you want to learn those skills, I could connect you with them and we could collaborate where basically you will learn it and you will create a curriculum for other people to learn it, which is what I was talking about Montessori style learning. You'll learn it from them, but then you'll create an educational curriculum that will teach other people that skill. And that way we can actually teach other people in the FTI how to be marketers, and we can have a marketing boot camp. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I would love to see a success. Let's say if we take a product of my friend and then we try to sell one of his products, and if we land, let's say 10 sales, then we can take it from there.
Yeah, and we could do it for sales too. I can actually teach sales because I've been doing that for about 6 years now. And so I'm not terrible at it. According to the restaurant owners that I've been selling that I told I was terrible, they're like, no, you're not terrible. You're actually a good salesperson. And I'm like, all right, well, I'll trust you if you're saying that, honestly. But you know, I have a very like how do I say this? A very honest sales approach, you know, rather than trying to misrepresent things and trying to you know, pull the wool over someone's eyes. I'm not going to sell someone something that I don't actually think they're going to need, which is kind of an old-fashioned way of looking at sales and not a very you know, I don't know how to say it. It's just different than a lot of people, the way that a lot of people approach it. But I can teach that way. And consultative sale is more what I focus on, rather than the challenger effect, which is basically, well, I won't go into it, but yeah, so we could talk about sales. Those are topics for another night. So reach out to me offline in the online community if people want to do. We could do those things on Tuesday evenings. We could also do them as a separate thread. I'm open to either one. So yeah, very open-minded. Anyone have other areas like challenges that they want to focus on or that they want to learn about? All right, then we may end a little early tonight if that's okay, because it's been a long day for me. So I don't mind ending early if no one else does. But I want to thank everybody for coming and for your great contributions, comments, and you know, this is a cool doc, and I hope you all hold on to it and share with people in the hopes that it'll be helpful to them and to you. And I'm gonna go through. We made a lot of these things heading 2s. They should be heading 1s, and then I'll oops, I have to. So I'll do that, and then put the table of contents in. And just want to thank you all for coming, and hope that I will see you guys again next week and in future weeks if you can't make next week. And if you have, I would love for you all to join the online community and chat between events, you know, and yeah, would love to see you guys again soon.
Thank you. Thank you, Garrett.
Have a
Bye-bye.
good night, everybody. Bye-bye.